Welcome to the Vibrant Life podcast. This is the official podcast of the Vibrant Life community. I'm Sarah Nolan, a burnout prevention and energetic management consultant, and I'm here with Amira Alvarez, who is the founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman, a global coaching company helping thousands of driven women in the workplace, entrepreneurs, self-employed professionals achieve financial and career breakthroughs. And as somebody who has made a quantum leap, which means going from barely making six figures to making 700,000 in 1 year, has lived to tell about it. And she knows exactly what mindset shifts and growth strategies are required to get out of your own way, master the mental aspects of success, and gain the confidence and freedom to go to the next level. So Amira, I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like, this is exactly what the viewers and listeners are needing right at this time. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I can't wait to share your story of overcoming. We talked about self-worth and your journey through that. And it sounds like, just from your bio that you have really benefited from all the work that you've done with your self-worth. So can you share with us how you got started with that? How does somebody even begin a journey of overcoming self-worth issues?
Absolutely. So first, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's good to be here. I think that overcoming self-worth issues, they come in so many different forms. And I think you just have to be aware that the story that I tell is about my personal self-worth issues. And it might show up differently for you, but there are some very key mechanisms that you can apply, and I'll try and underscore them and pull them out of my story so that you can take them and transfer them to your life, your business, so that you can really expand. So one of the key concepts is that we can only receive as much as we feel worthy of receiving.
Right.
Okay? And we were talking before we started the recording about investment levels and how much people charge in their business and in all of that, and what the limitations are, or the lack of limitation there. Okay. And one of the things that we were talking about is, how much you charge, how much I charge, what's the possibility out there. And I'd love to bring to the table a little nugget there and have link it to the self-worth piece, okay, and how it builds. So the big quantum leap that I made in income, I will just tell you, it's not complicated. The math is it's just a math equation. Making money is mathematically easy. Okay, tell me how much you want to make, and we'll figure out the math on it. Okay, and we will adjust what you have to do to make that much money. And there's really only 3 ways to make more money, right? There's raising your prices, which we just touched on. There's adding new channels of income, okay, whether inside your main business or a completely different business offering, or selling more, like quantity. How many widgets are you going to sell? There's only 3 ways. I don't care if you're Sarah Blakely, Oprah, Richard Branson, it doesn't matter. Everything goes into those 3 categories. It's not complicated, okay? And yet, as business owners, or even women or men in career jobs, we are limited by how we're thinking about the possibilities there. Okay? Now, Tony Robbins, I think the last time I heard, was charging $1 million or $3 million a year for his private clients. He takes 8 of them. Okay. Okay. So the idea of how much is possible is just, that's not the right question to be asking. Okay. Whatever industry you're in, you have to start building your personal sense of value in this world. Okay. And it's not just magical thinking, like, well, I think I'm great, I'm going to flip back my hair, right? You actually have to do the work that goes along with that. Okay.
Yeah, it's so different from saying what you're worth or how much value you have than actually feeling it. I feel like I hear that all the time, like, oh, I know what my worth is, or I know that I'm really valuable, where deep down inside, sometimes that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. So you want to hear my story about it, and then I'll tell you the steps. Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. So so if you go back many years, I would say that I was like the classic overachiever. Like, I got the good grades in school, I went to the great college, I got the great job, I knew how to work hard. That was really like, I understood the rules of the game. You know, in school you did X, if you did X you got Y, right? There was a cause and effect, and I knew how to work that system. Okay. But what I took out of that was that success came from hard work alone. Okay. Now, I understand that you cannot ignore the work. You have to do the work. Like, there's no exception to that. Okay. But where I was in my business, so the first year in my business, I made 30K, which was great. Second year, I tripled it. I made 90K. I felt really good about that. That was a quantum leap. Third year in business, I made 138. That was still a pretty solid leap there. Okay, what is that? 50,000. Okay, but at that point, I realized that I couldn't work any harder. Okay, it was like I was already working the 12 to 16-hour day. I was throwing everything at it. I didn't know what was working and what wasn't working, right? I had the spaghetti approach, like it's just like throwing everything out there, right? Seeing what would stick. And like, I realized that this was unsustainable and it wasn't scalable. Like, I couldn't double my work hours to double my income, right?
So what kind of work were you doing at that time that, you know, you were doing everything you could and you couldn't scale anymore? You kind of reached your capacity. What kinds of
what was my business or what was the marketing that I was doing?
Or what was the what were the types of actions that you were taking that you felt like you couldn't really scale?
I was doing everything myself, for one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And I think I had started with a assistant at some point that year, that third year, but I still was pretty much doing everything myself. And I was just trying to do as much marketing as I possibly could. I had a ton of perfectionism built into that. I was lost in the weeds. I was not seeing the big picture. I was doing a lot of things right in some ways,
right?
Which was like, I was building relationships. I was in it for the long game. It wasn't a short transactional kind of experience. I was really focused on coming forward in service. And it's one of the things I teach my clients is like, giving is the first law of receiving, right? Like you give first, you give lots, right? You don't overgive. This is not about low self-worth, okay?
Right, exactly.
But you show up in your power and you give. And I had that really dialed down. And I had a certain level of belief in myself already at that point, okay? But I couldn't keep up the pace that I was just doing everything myself, right? And I was lost in the weeds.
And you said like 12-hour days sometimes.
12 to 16-hour days.
12 to 16, like, okay, yeah.
Up in the morning, all the way. But here's the other thing I would say. At that point in my business, there was so much, like, I would get some momentum going and I could get lost in the weeds and get a bunch of little tasks done. But I wasn't doing the big things well, at least. And there was a lot of emotional limitation at that point. Okay. I was also a personal, a real, what's the word? Like I studied personal development. Like I was a self-help junkie, and like I had all the books, right? And I just read everything and practiced everything. And I really believed in mindset, and I believed in all this stuff, but I wasn't actually, there was still some sort of block. I was still limited because I was only getting, I asked my clients, I asked the people I speak to look at the results that they're actually getting, because the results that they're actually getting will tell them exactly what level of awareness they're at. So as much, I had to get really honest with myself, because as much personal development as I had done, as much mindset work as I had done, as much work on myself that I had done, I had to look at my results and say, I was making 138. Those were my numbers. Not bad. I crossed the 6-figure mark, right? But that was where I was at. It was not, and it wasn't easy. I was struggling, and it was blind. Okay. So I thought I had a good mindset, a good attitude, but I was really a lot of the time under the covers feeling lesser than, feeling not enough, feeling like I was effing everything up, feeling like I didn't know what I was doing, feeling like I don't know how this works. I'm a fraud. I'm an imposter. I don't know that I actually, I can say this now in hindsight, looking back, that those were the things going through my mind. But at the time, I just felt like this overwhelming discomfort, emotional discomfort.
Yes. Yeah.
The retreat and feeling paralyzed. Okay.
And that's a great insight to share, because a lot of people, if they're watching or listening now, may not actually be saying those things to themselves, but it's just that general feeling. And so to have that awareness is huge, that like, that's actually what might be going on.
Yeah. And I had this interesting thing going on where, like, when things were going great, I had great confidence, and I was like in momentum, and I felt like I was on top of the world, and I was super smart and super on it, and I had my stuff together, and it was very like rah rah. And then it would flip to dysfunction, if you will. Okay. And emotional contraction. And it would be days or weeks where I would just be like low motivation and not, I shouldn't say weeks, because I would get back into it faster than that. But enough slowdown that it was this constant sort of emotional roller coaster, especially in the mornings. I'd wake up in the mornings full of panic and anxiety and overwhelm. And I know a lot of women in business have that experience.
Yes, for sure.
So it's if that's what you're going through right now, I understand the pain. I understand the situation. And the carrot that I hold out is like, I no longer wake up that way.
Yeah.
Like I just don't. Like it's not part of my worldview at this point. So, or my experience either.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you, what did you have like a wake up call at some point? Was there a specific instance that you were like, oh my gosh, what's going on? We need to change it.
Totally. So thank you for that underhanded pitch. So my story is like it was another 12, 16-hour day. I probably woke up at 5:30 or 6, started in bed with my laptop kind of thing, and was like going nonstop. And it was
in bed in your laptop. Like you wake up, you reach over for your laptop. Okay.
Right? Like
how many people can relate to that, right?
Yeah, totally.
Or your phone, or
it's like a terrible thing if you have a rhythm and a structure and a boundaries for that. But if it's coming from a place of fear, desperation, anxiety, that's not healthy. Okay.
Right. But if you can't afford to lose those like 5 minutes.
Right. Versus if it's coming from a place of, this is my quiet time, this is where I get my deep thinking done before the day starts. Like that's a conscious choice about how you're going to run your business.
Right.
Okay. But at the time it was not that. It was like, let's go, because there's, tigers chasing you kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it was probably 6:30 or 7 p.m. at night. I was upstairs in my office. I was sitting on the floors with my laptop on my lap and leaning up against the couch. And my then husband called upstairs and was like, "Hey, honey, you coming down for dinner?" And I was like, yeah, I'll be right down. And, I just want to get one more thing done. And a half an hour later, he called up and he was like, "Hey, baby, I'm starting. See ya," kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is this? What is this that's happening? And it was that moment where I was like, I actually can't work any harder. I understand I have a great work ethic. It's excellent that I want to get complete. It's excellent that I want to do a good job, but something's amiss here because, and here's the self-worth piece as part of it. Okay. It was also 7 p.m. at night and I hadn't showered. I was still in the sweats that I'd slept in. I was not sleeping in the beautiful silk negligee that I wear now. I was sleeping in the sweats, in the t-shirt that had a rip in it and the dog hair all over it. I hadn't brushed my teeth. Okay. I hadn't washed my face. I hadn't stopped all day long. Okay. I wasn't taking any appreciation for myself.
Right.
Okay. And that was what really hit me. It was like, this is not who I am. And yet this is who I am, right? That if I get truthful about what's happening, I am someone right now who doesn't care enough about herself to shower, to brush her teeth, to wash her face, to put on makeup, to do her hair, to get dressed, to adorn herself, right? And you could go into all the other things, to stop for lunch, right? Stop for dinner, right? And now there's a time where you're in hustle and jam mode, and that's fine, okay? There are times where it's like, I'm just focused. This is what I'm doing right now, and I'm choosing it, and it's great.
Right.
Okay. But it's coming from a different energy rather than, I can't afford to stop. I'm not worthy of stopping. Everyone else is more important than I am, right? Make sense?
Yes, totally makes sense. And when it's like that daily, almost like a habit, where that's like the lifestyle, that's definitely something to look at.
Yeah.
So what did you do when you had that aha moment, where you were like, okay, what's actually happening here? And who is this person up here who's supposed to be eating with my husband, but instead I'm just like working in my sweats?
Yeah.
What happened next?
So I basically said, something has got to give, right? This is not okay. How am I going to move the needle? How am I going to change things here? And I went in search of the answers to that. And I got help. I found a mentor, changed my world. I started learning the universal laws, which people may or may not be familiar with, but there are laws to goal achievement, if you will. There are laws to how we create in this world, how we take things from a thought, an idea, into form. And if you're in business for yourself, it's like, what are your goals? How are you going to create those? Okay. If you're looking at it from health and wellness, I ran a marathon last year, coming from a family of totally non-athletic people, having not been athletic in my life, right? But I now know the creation process, like how to achieve goals. So I apply this to all the aspects of my life. Great relationships, great sex, running marathons, letting go of weight, right? So if people are watching who are not in business for themselves, I mean, this works for people in careers. Also, I help people get, huge income breakthroughs, making a third more money than they were making before.
It's awesome.
In a career, right? It's the same. There are laws, basically there's laws to creation. You could say it in a more practical way. There's laws to goal achievement, right? And if you want to go in a more woo-woo side, you would say there's laws to manifestation. But it's all saying the same thing, that we live in a cause and effect universe, and there's ways to make that happen. So I learned that. And then instead of paying lip service to it, which a lot of people do. Right? Sorry if that offends anyone, but there are people who are intellectually studying it, but are not applying it.
Right, exactly.
Okay? And the application will feel uncomfortable, hugely uncomfortable. So let me give you an example of that. So one of the laws that I mentioned earlier, this is a subsidiary law, but we will only be able to receive as much as we feel worthy of, okay? So how do you apply that, okay? Well, one of the things I learned, and this is like a little pop-off statement, and it really, it irked me in the beginning, mostly because I couldn't afford to do it, okay? That was what I was saying. I couldn't afford to do it, okay? Was front of the plane, back of the car, fly first class, have a driver, okay? And I was like, well, easy for you to say, you have all the money, blah, 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 right? But if you only receive as much as you feel worthy of receiving, how do you feel worthy of receiving it? Well, you be the person who is worthy of receiving it. Does that make sense? So I had to be the person who flew first class. Freaked me out. You should have seen me on my first class flight. Like I remember it well, not like it was yesterday, but I was like so uptight, like, who are all these people? How am I supposed to behave? And then I felt guilty about spending that money, and I had to work through all of that stuff to be the person who of course flies first class, who expects to be treated that way. And then, because it's not magical thinking, I had to actually also be the person who received the money at that level, okay? But I wouldn't have done the work required to be the person to receive that money at that level if I hadn't gone to that level first. There would be no reason for me to receive it. Does that make sense? You're muted right now.
Oh, yes, totally makes sense. And I love your distinction between, I can see how a lot of people would be like, okay, let's go fly first class. Where's the money? And it's like, what was that?
It doesn't rain from the sky.
Right, okay? Right. Yeah. I have seen in my life where whenever, and it's so funny how this has been a pattern with my husband and I, because we've been dating for many, many years and got married, but we have taken massive financial risks, and it's like really scary at the time. And then your whole world changes after. But it's the move, you got to take the action. But it's just fascinating to see that pattern over and over and over again, where you take the financial risk, you believe in yourself, you trust that okay, this is going to work out somehow. And then all of a sudden you're in a totally different situation, and it opens up something.
Completely.
So go ahead. Continue your story.
The only thing that I would say on that was I had to work up to that level, and then I had to keep going beyond it also. But so for me, that woman who wasn't taking care of herself that I described in that, come to Jesus moment, right? I recognized that, and I started doing things that made me feel very uncomfortable at the time, which at the time was going and getting a manicure every week. Okay. That was like, can I spend the money on myself? Okay. Right. And then it was like, well, can I get a gel manicure, like the $45 one, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the anxiety in my body and the back and forth about making the decision to do that. And then it was spending money to have someone else color my hair. I'm almost 50, I have grays, right? And I was in the bathroom with the latex gloves doing the bathroom floor, right? And could I pay someone to do that for me? That was a huge thing. And then it was, what about my clothing? Could I actually buy clothing at the next level that
Right.
like fit me? That would I get it tailored? Would I buy higher quality clothes? The first time I went shopping at Neiman's, that was like a huge deal for me, right? But every time I had a new experience, I became that person who got comfortable with it. Okay. So most people will stop at any one of those levels. And again, I'm telling people my self-worth story. It might be something different for them, whether it's the environment that they live in. Like I had to do that as well. Like now I live in this beautiful luxurious place, and it's fabulous, but I had to like move through the steps to get there as well. So however it's showing up for you, what I teach is you do it incrementally, but quickly. And that's the right. Most people go, first they get stuck in like, I want that, but I can't have that. And they just won't invest money. Okay.
I just want to throw out a little, journal prompt. This just came to my mind as you said that, was, wouldn't it be powerful for people to ask themselves, what do I want, but not feel like I can have?
Perfect question.
And just take a second and just get clear on that. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. And it's probably a long list.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. And you probably feel some, like I'm doing, well, you can't really see, but some feeling in your body that feels like that's wrong to have, or there's a internal conflict of like, I'm frustrated by that. Okay. That is the feeling that comes along with this. Okay. And yet it's not saying to stop. It's not saying not to move forward. It's actually saying that is your next step, and you need to move towards it, not away from it. Okay.
Right.
And the challenge is if you move towards it and then you go with blinders on and like go ostriching with your head in the sand, that doesn't work. You have to also do the outer game work to call in the new clients, the new things that you want, whether it's relationship, running the marathon. I had to figure out how to actually run, right? And run consistently. Right? There's outer game action to it. But desire is causative. It calls forth ideas, the ways, the means, the opportunities. Okay. But when we say later, some other time, I can't have that now.
Right.
Everything stops. So let me be clear here. It's desire plus decision is causative. Because you can have the desire. Let's say you have the desire for the prettier clothes, right? You'd love to have designer clothes. That's great. You have that desire,
right? But
you haven't decided I'm having that. Okay. I'm doing that. So then you have to decide that's happening. Come hell or high water, right? That is happening. And then you have to take immediate, massive, consistent action towards that end. Okay. So sometimes it's, I'm going to have designer clothes. So I'm going to buy myself one nice thing, right? I'm just going to do that. It's investing in mentorship. It is investing in a manicure. It's doing the thing that scares you. Okay. But doing it anyway. You have to. Yeah. You're never going to be ready.
You know what I love about what you're talking about right now, Amira, is I feel like so many people get fixated on the number, and like our brains have such a hard time sometimes comprehending numbers, especially if they're bigger than what we're used to. So anchoring that to like, okay, this number per month or per year that I want, this actually means this. And like, it means like the designer clothes or the mentorship or the events or whatever. And so I love that you're touching on that.
Yeah. And here's the thing that I had to do. I had to do it before I had the money.
Right.
Okay. Before I felt ready. I don't feel like we ever feel ready. Like I had to, on the small level, invest in a manicure and my hair and clothes, travel, whatever, all those were like different levels. But I had to do that before I felt ready, and then quickly close the gap on that. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of how I moved through my self-worth stuff, was like I kept seeing what I wanted that I wasn't allowing myself to have, and getting that quickly. Sometimes it meant putting it on a credit card. Okay. And then like being the person who did the thing to have the thing. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that was it was a big breakthrough for me to start living life from the place that I wanted to live from, and let that drive things. And it's amazing what happens. Like, what's an example of this? Let's say you buy a beautiful pair of shoes. You see these shoes, you want them. They're like $800, and you're like, right? Like, that's so much money, or $2,000, whatever it is. And you buy them anyway. And you feel like $1 million doing this. Now, it doesn't work if you feel guilty. Okay. Okay. Now, in the beginning, I felt guilty. Okay. And I had to work through that. I had to let it go and shed it. Okay. And believe in this process. Okay. I had belief in this process. I had to believe the laws. Okay. So let's say you buy the shoes, and then you go into the meeting and you feel awesome and you're rocking those shoes, and no one sees the shoes or no one mentions the shoes, but your energy is so amazing that you land the new client or you close the new deal, right?
Right.
It's changed who you're being so that then you present differently in this world. Okay. That's just a little small quality. One of the things that I share with people sometimes is the evolution of my photo shoots that I've had.
Oh, interesting.
If you look at my first photo shoot, and the woman who was the same woman, I'm the same person, but I look hugely different. My energy it's not, I feel like I'm harping on the hair and the makeup and the clothes and the manicures and things like that. All of that has shifted, absolutely. But the energy that I am radiating is completely different. Okay?
Totally. Yeah, that's incredible. And I'd love to see, I'm going to go look at do you have like any, have you put that together to show people as an example?
We just launched this new training called Wealth Consciousness 2.0.
Right.
And it's 3 videos. These are masterclass videos, and they're free. You can get them. The first one you don't have to opt into, but the second and third will ask you for your email address so that we can stay in touch with you. And in those video series, in one of them, I have the transformation, and I go through the early photo shoots, and all the subsequent ones. And it's really, I think it's fascinating.
That's so cool. So you guys definitely go check out, we'll talk about that at the end where you can find all that stuff, but definitely look at those trainings and you'll be able to see the transformation. So when do you feel like that quantum leap happened? Did it happen over a period of time, or was it like all of a sudden, you just had this massive shift in your business where you went from, 130,000 to 700?
That happened in 1 year.
Okay. So it was like a significant kind of a big shift.
It was a very big shift. Yeah, for sure. So I had a big goal that year. So I was like, I'm going to make $1 million this year. Right? But I was excited by it, and it was juicy, and it was like, desire is causative. It like calls you forward.
Right.
And that was a big enough goal for me that that would excite me strongly enough that would help me move through the challenges that everyone faces in business. Okay. There, without a doubt, there's always in life too. Okay. There's just going to be challenges. This is how we grow. This is
Right.
this is the beautiful thing we call being human and having, having a life here. So my belief and what I teach is that in order to stay the course and be so committed that you will get right back up and do it very quickly, you have to have some goal that excites you so much that is incredibly important. And then the other thing is, I will tell you, so, well, there's a couple things. There's a lot of windy stories here. Okay. So not only did I have a big enough goal, but I invested. And I invested in a 6-figure plus coaching program. Okay, so that's over 100K. Let me just tell you. And
is that per year?
Per year.
Okay.
And it scared the pants off of me. Okay. I, on the one hand, was like, I am doing this. I know I can do this. I can do this. Okay. With the right help, I can do this. And I came home from signing that contract and told my then husband, hey, guess what I did, right? And he was not pleased by that. Okay. That was like, we almost got divorced at that point. Okay. We've subsequently separated, not because of this. He's very happy that the business went gangbusters and we had a very amicable split for other reasons completely. Okay. Which I'm happy to share about, but not pertinent to this particular. Next time. Exactly. So for the first 3 weeks, I was in the fetal position, feeling incredible shame. Like, what did I do? I'd never made that kind of investment, much less made that kind of investment without having a agreement from my partner. Okay. Right. And I felt like I had broken a fundamental trust and that I had done something terribly, terribly wrong. And yet I also knew that this is where my greatness lay. Like, I knew this was my path. And I was crying when I signed up for the coaching. Like, my whole body was in, like, going through a conniption, like the readjustment, but like it was painful. Okay.
So how many of, watchers, viewers, and listeners can relate to that? I mean, there's got to be, I can relate to that on a few occasions. Like, every investment seems like it's been like a bigger investment. And then I always have gone through that little period of like, oh my gosh, what did I just do?
Totally. And can I explain what that's about? Like the mechanism there? I don't know if you talked to your, okay. So, and then I want to, let me close the loop on the past story, and then I'll do that. So the loop is, I had invested this amount of money, and that was one way that I got leverage over myself. I was not going to not do the work, right? I had put this money in. I'm going to step up to the next level right now.
So it's like accountability in a way.
Yeah. And so I was going for $1 million. I didn't get there. I got to 700. I was, I will admit at the end of the year, I cried because I hadn't made my goal. And then I stopped crying and I was like, and you made 700K this year, lady, right? That's not bad. Okay. So I do have a shoot for the moon, land on the stars kind of philosophy. I think it's important to have a huge goal that stretches you beyond what you think you're capable of, because your brain will, it's like a heat-seeking missile. It will go to wherever you point it. Okay. So that feeling of anxiety, shame, terror, guilt, fear, all of that comes up, that like incredibly huge discomfort that we feel when we do something that is beyond contrary what our conscious mind wants, but contrary to what our subconscious beliefs are about ourselves, will cause this kind of feeling. So you consciously have the idea that I know that I need mentorship. I'm going to invest in it. I'm going to do the work. This is what I need to get to the next level. Consciously, you're like, do. This makes sense. Subconsciously, so we're going to call that like an apple idea, okay? Like apples and oranges, apple idea, okay? Your subconscious mind has the beliefs that were formed under the age of 5. And it thinks that if you, in my case, sign up for something that your partner is not on board with, I had a belief that made me a bad person, okay? And that I was going to lose love, safety, and belonging if I did that, okay? All my security. I had a belief that I wasn't worth it, right? But like, I don't get to have what I want in this world. That's a big belief that people have, or I'm going to fail. So I had all these other beliefs. We're going to call those orange beliefs, and they're in your subconscious, and they are in conflict, like oil and water. They don't go together, okay? And so you have this idea that you're acting on, this conscious idea that you're acting on, and then you have this subconscious belief that's saying, that doesn't add up, that's wrong. And so you get this feeling of misalignment, okay? Your job now is to understand that, because we are intelligent humans now that we understand that then we understand the process. I want this. I know that this is what I want. Desire is causative. I've decided this is what I want. This is where I'm going. All of this logically, right? Consciously. When I feel then that oil and water or apples and oranges feeling, that means I'm on the right path. Not stop, not go the other direction, not feel shame, not go into guilt. That is exactly what happens when you're holding a new idea that's contrary to an old idea. And until you then become the person who's proven that this is survivable, okay, this is good, I do this, it will continue to feel really uncomfortable, okay? But then once you go to the next level, you've made that decision, you're acting on it, you've gone to the next level, your subconscious is like, oh, she didn't die. That. And then has broken through what's called the terror barrier.
Right.
Okay. And then you're aligned. You have an apple idea and an apple belief. Okay. And you don't feel that fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, panic anymore.
Yes, that's awesome. So what happened when you signed up for that mentorship and you overcame that terror from the beginning? Like, what ways did you start to show up differently?
I started to believe in myself.
Yeah.
At a much higher level. I started to take bigger action. Action that previously I couldn't hold whatsoever. I raised my personal game in my own business. Like, I became better at what I did because now that I was like going for more, I had to be that person. Right. So I upped my game, and that's just been my MO since. Like, I just keep upping my game. I mean, the other things that changed were like, it's not that everything's perfect in my life right now, but I have become a person who has a really freaking delightful life. Okay. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty lit up most of the time. There are times that are challenges for everyone. Okay. But I know how to move through it so much quicker. I'm no longer in the fetal position under the covers anymore. Right. Are these the kind of the answers that you're looking for in terms of what change?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
The other things are like, I mean, just to get really real with people, I had an amicable divorce. We got really conscious with my husband around it. He agreed, I agreed. We went different directions. I'm in a great relationship. I'm having the best sex of my life. You know, like I've lost 30 pounds. I've run a marathon. Like all these other things have changed as well, you know, so.
And that all makes sense when, you know, we're talking about self-worth. I mean, how many different areas of somebody else's life is going to be affected by their worth? I mean, it goes so far beyond money. It goes, you know, with your health, relationships, you know, all of it. So when you address the self-worth, then it's just natural that everything else starts to fall into place.
Absolutely. And the way that I do this in someone's business, like if I'm coaching someone, if I'm actually mentoring them on this, we are looking at how it's showing up, say, in their sales conversations, or it's showing up in how they're hiring, okay? Who they feel worthy of having on their team. The kinds of conversations that they're having with people. Are they from a small level or a big level? And this isn't about being antagonistic or belligerent. This is about like owning your worth in this world and how you present and communicate. It also shows up in like what people are doing. I've had many clients that when we get really clear on something from a self-worth perspective, they can own what they really want to be doing. And they're no longer doing the job or career or the business that they were trying to make work. Yeah.
Now, what specific things have you seen your clients do after taking them through this process?
Yeah, lots of things. So in terms of, you know, I've had clients do things like hire the right people so that they can put standard operating procedures in place and actually have them work. And then the result is that they're working 4 hours a day in their business, not 16 hours a day. And then they write children's books because that's really what they want to be doing. Or that was the case with this particular woman. And then she went on to like start her real estate business.
That's awesome.
So, and that was and it wasn't just around the hiring, but it was around how she was doing sales. And she had a particular mindset that nonprofits wouldn't pay. All her clients were in the arts world, in the nonprofit world. And she was like, they're just not going to pay. And I was like, right? I gave her the and we got clear on the value, and she did the work, and she changed her sales process, which I helped her with. And she started making bank, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Do you want more examples?
If you have like one more on the top of your head.
I have lots. So I have another client who had a ton of drama with her team. She had people who, you know, just emotional drama, but also things like holding websites hostage and like a lot of really absurd things.
That sounds really stressful.
It was very stressful, and it was keeping her from growing, and it was a huge energy sink. And she thought she had to take care of these people and that she was wrong, okay? That she was buying into this story. And I had to really help her to see the dysfunction that these people were living out and call her to a higher level, like that this is what's acceptable. And then this is what's acceptable. And then this is what's acceptable. Like, if you use the clothing thing, it's no longer acceptable for me to sleep in sweats, right? Okay. Like it's the same thing in business. This is no longer acceptable. This is below my value statement for myself. Okay. And you keep raising that level. And now she's got, you know, she went from getting $34,000 contracts to $500,000 contracts to now she's getting $1 million contracts. Okay. And she's opening different channels in her business and she's hired all these people. And is it all perfect? Perfect? No, she's like in massive growth. There's tons of stuff going on. All that is real. Okay. Like, let's just pull back the curtains on that's real. Okay. But she now has she has a kick-ass team, totally amazing business in freaking growth. It has higher level clients who pay her tons more money, right? And she's on her way. I think she's going to be a $3 million business this year.
Awesome.
$3 or $4 million.
That's awesome. And it must be so fulfilling to see your clients do these things and to see, because I'm sure that when you talk to your clients, you can see it maybe before they can see it. And so to see it unfolding must be so much fun.
I love it. It doesn't get old, let me tell you. Okay.
Yeah.
Never gets old.
So do you have any like last things you want to share with people about the journey of discovering your self-worth and really embodying that?
I would just say I couldn't have done it alone. Okay. So a few things that I did that were really super, super, super helpful are I got mentorship, and I understand that that's what I do. That's what you do. It's sort of, I'm advocating for our businesses here, but it's also what I had to do. I doing it on my own only got me so far.
Right.
Okay. And actually, I had a coach or two prior to making my quantum leap. So it wasn't as if I hadn't invested, but I had to invest at the next level of coach, someone who could really get me to the next level. I was talking circles around people. Okay. So I needed someone who was going to call me on my story, which is one of the things that I do for my clients is like, there's no story here. Okay.
Right.
So I think I couldn't have done it on my own. I got into a community, and I think it's really important to be in a community of, like, I have the Unstoppable Woman movement, which is a community of women. It's really important to be in a community of like-minded people that are going to the next level, because if you walk out your door, there's all sorts of noise out there that is saying you can't and you should stop, and it's scary, and don't do that. You're going to get hurt. You're going to fail. You're like, and is constantly bombarding you with no's, or I can't do, or it's too scary, or you're not good enough. Right. And you need to be in community with, my gig is with other women, because I think it's important to be with women who are smart and are going for more and can hold you to a higher standard as well. So I would say those two things are really super important.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. So recognizing that you're not going to do it on your own, that you can have help with this, and finding the community that champions you and is, I like to find, it's funny, I went to art school, and in my classes, I would always find the person who was like way better than me, or what I thought of as way better than me. And I always hated it. Like, if I was kind of the top in that classroom, I always was super disappointed, because I'm like, I have nobody to look up to. And in hindsight, there's always somebody to look up to. But anyway, it's like so helpful for your growth when you have those people in your life that you can really look up to them and say, you know what, I want to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And just kind of follow that. So thank you so much for sharing. I feel like we've gained so much knowledge and wisdom and insight from this conversation. And I know that it's so funny, I don't usually say this, but whoever's watching this, like, this is divine timing, and you might want to go watch it again, because there might be something that you haven't received this time around that you're going to get the next time. So go watch it again, or listen again if you need to. And Amira has, like we said before, a couple of complimentary trainings on her website, theunstoppablewoman.com, and it's plural or singular for woman or woman.
It's the Unstoppable Woman,
Woman.
singular.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
theunstoppablewoman.com. And then do you want me to give the training?
Sure.
Yeah.
Slash
So it's
training.
yeah, /training. So theunstoppablewoman.com/training. And it'll get you to the masterclass on wealth consciousness 2.0, which is how to really the mental aspect to success, like how you need to look differently at the world, at yourself, how you're showing up. And there's a whole training on self-worth as part of that as well. So
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And for everybody who decides to work with Amira in some capacity, just let her know that you saw this podcast. And I have a free gift for you as well. It's a year subscription to the Rejuvenation Club, which I think is really going to help assist your process with Amira. So reach out to her. What's the best way to reach out to you?
So you can go to theunstoppablewoman.com, and there is a book a consult link on our business coaching page.
Perfect.
Or you can contact page. And then we have an 877 number that's on the website as well that they can leave it for, and we will call you back and set up an appointment and we'll talk.
I love that. I feel like nobody does the phone stuff anymore, but I think people are ready for more phone interaction. All right, cool.
Because I can give it to you.
Yeah, give us the number.
Okay, so it's 877-581-1437.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amira. This has been really fun and super insightful, and definitely would love to have you back sometime.
Awesome. I'd love that. That would be fun.
All right, thanks. And thanks for everybody watching and listening today. Bye.